Muhammad Ali. Okay. I actually have a very fond memory of Muhammad Ali. I was 8 years old and he was fighting Joe Frazier. And that's when I discovered boxing.
Oh, wow.
And I watched that fight with my dad and one of his friends. You know, they were all drinking, digging the fights. And I was like up close to the TV watching this stuff. And I remember watching Muhammad Ali thinking like, man, I wish I could box like that somehow. You know, it's like, I want to learn how to box. And then Muhammad Ali got me into boxing. And it really wasn't a boxing club around, so it was kind of just learning from people who boxed before and friends. And we had a little shed where we had some bags and stuff. And I loved it, you know. We were going to move anyway, and I was like hoping to have a boxing club around. And then that's when the Bruce Lee movies started coming out.
Uh-oh.
And, you know, I was digging that too, you know, so I was the one to like put posters on my wall and, you know, all this bullshit. You know, I've never been a huge fan of anything, but what I am a fan of, I am. So I actually had 2 posters I got for my birthday at different times. One was Muhammad Ali, one was Bruce Lee, and I put those up and that was it. My dad's friends said that this was the first time 2 boxers were going to make $1 million each.
Oh, wow.
And in my mind, I was like, they can fight for 15 rounds and make $1 million. Like, I'm in. I don't even care if I win. I'll go in there and I'll try to kill them, and whatever happens, happens, but I get paid, right? They're like, well, yeah. And I thought the winner got it. They said, no, both of them get it. And I was hooked, man. It was probably a week later. My stepdad at the time was a former boxer, and he got me like a speed bag and started showing me the basics, and that was it, man. I boxed all the way till I was 36 years old.
Wow.
It was from Muhammad Ali, and you know, like his politics or the controversy, you watch his fights. We're never. I mean, I don't see how it's possible, not in my lifetime for sure, to see another fighter like that. That man could box like he had the art of boxing. It's hard to explain. I mean, you know, he was a phenomenal boxer. And what we were talking about earlier, about the gameness and the competitiveness of these men and the courage.
Yes.
Muhammad Ali is one of them. You don't see him pulling out fights. I don't care what was wrong with him. He didn't have it in him to pull out of fights. And he would fight any man and do anything to beat him, and he did. We saw it. I mean, the George Foreman. I mean, he pulled out fights nobody thought he could win.
That's real.
Yeah, and then he went on to fight Larry Holmes when he was 38. After, you know, the last of his career, he got battered a lot, the rope dope, because he couldn't move like he used to. And Muhammad Ali is the kind of fighter where, oh, I lost my speed, I'm done. No, he's gonna find a way, which he did. And he changed his style, and he still won.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he's never been knocked out. I mean...
Wait, Ali's never been knocked out?
No. I remember watching Larry Holmes at Caesar's Palace when I was young at the Toko's boxing gym. So we all used to... You know, there were open workouts, but we got to go to all the workouts. He was going to fight Jerry Cooney. And you watch this guy spar. I mean, Larry Holmes had a jab that could kill a normal guy, like, for real.
Yeah, his left was
He had
crazy.
a way of throwing it, and he had a long reach, and the way he stepped, and he was tall. I mean, he could jab you from here. Reach in, and damn near knock you out.
Classic man.
Yeah, that's the kind of man we're talking about here, you know. And the guy's boxing fundamentals were literally perfect. That's why he's heavyweight champion for so long. His biggest sin was he came after Muhammad Ali and beat Muhammad Ali. And he wasn't wanting to. You watch the fight, he was hitting him, telling the ref, you know, God, I didn't want to do this. And the ref was like, you know, should have looked out for him. Mm. And a lot of people say that fight is what was kind of his downfall. But his own, and if that is the case, his own gameness, because he would not quit. And he got to the point, you can't knock me out. You know, best he could do was take everything he freaking had and make him tired, you know.
I think after Foreman, he really learned how to take a shot, and he learned that he could box a different way. Unfortunately, it was more to his, and I can't speak on all, but it was more to his detriment.
Yeah, at the end, I think it was. But you know, part of me is like, you know, that was Muhammad Ali. He might not have had it any other way. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, I don't know. I'd like him asking the question and say, you know, Mr. Ali, would you do that fight over again? And I would really like to know what his answer is. And nobody's asked him that because it's probably offensive, but I would ask him that. You know, that wouldn't, I don't think it would offend him. I'd be like, you know, I'm really curious. Whatever answer he gives is the right answer, you know. I wouldn't care. But, you know, the media
Will hype or spin it in a
yeah,
certain way.
they don't know what to ask half the time anyways. And I don't think Ali would be offended by that at all. I think that would be a real question that he'd answer honestly, not my opinion. But, you know, his legacy is huge. He's inspired, you know, so many people through the years, all over the world. No boxer's done that. And his boxing was so good, it transcended boxing.
It became.
That explains it.
I think that for me, not only was it an art, he made it like dancing. He made boxing like dancing and fun.
He made it a true art. Like when I train guys, you know, it's like I want to do the same thing. You know, like the science applies to everybody, the same. It's the science of boxing. Fastest way to get somewhere is a straight line. You know, things like that. But then as they learn the science of it and they learn how to do it properly, then my job is to take that science and make it fit them, their personality, their body structure, what they're good at, what they're comfortable at. That's when you turn into an art, which Ali learned, obviously, the science of boxing, but he himself applied it to him to make it art, which mostly it's the trainer doing that or combined it of the two. And Angelo Dundee says a really good quote, because, you know, he trained Muhammad Ali for years and took him to these huge heights, and they asked him, you know, what was the real secret in training Ali? He's like, he goes, when I got Ali, this is after the Olympics, and I think after he won the heavyweight championship, I'm not sure.
From Liston.
Yeah, it was right around that time he went to Florida and trained with only Angelo Dundee. And Angelo Dundee said, you know, he already knew all the science of boxing as well as any man on earth.
Bingo.
And he fought the way he fought, and he goes, you didn't teach him nothing, you didn't train him anything. If you saw something he might need to work on, you went up there and said, hey Muhammad, throw a uppercut. And he'd go, oh, that's good, you know, let's work this a little more. Like, he had to process it through his head, so you just told him what looked good, or, you know, that didn't look too good. That's all you could do, which I understand that, because I trained Ken, he was the same way. What am I going to teach Ken about fighting?
Mm-hmm. Some people are just masters in their own way, and you just make subtle suggestions to kind of give them to you know, to get them to where they're
like with Ken, you know, I would just get in his head and see what he was wanting, and, you know, we might talk about game plans, but, you know, it's like, you know, tell Ken Shamrock how to fight, that's ignorant. But so then I would try to set up the training camps and the sparring partners and everything we need to fit what he wanted, and then as we got into it, you know, we would go, and I've brought in, like, you know, I'm not the best at like holding mitts, but I brought in like the best mitt guy in Reno, you know, different things like that, and we would talk like, you know, I think Ken, you know, a couple of these combinations might work good with him, and they'd try it out on Ken, and if he was feeling it, boom, that combination would get done. Not so much my idea, just a suggestion to Ken, and it gives them outside thought on it, you know, which I'm sure Ali was very much the same way, so I understand that. But, you know, that's how far he took boxing, which no man has took boxing that far ever. Like, if we had another Muhammad Ali, it would be as popular, if not more, than UFC, in my opinion, because, you know, boxing, those guys are very regal, man. It's like, there's not a lot of them, never has been. I was fortunate, grew up in the 70s, like Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns,
the golden era,
Benitez, Roberto Duran,
Hands of Stone,
Alexis Arguello, yeah, and then, you know, Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, you know, even the Spinks, Mike Weaver. I mean, all those guys were competent, man. It wasn't like today where, you know, a good guy just blows over another guy. You know, it's just, you know, it was different, man. And those guys rose to that spot through hard work and dedication, being very gamey, old school trainers, doing things old school way, fighting 15 rounds. I mean, not, I love MMA and the people involved, not taking anything away from them, but 15 round championship fight back then is a lot different than an MMA fight.
And I would say so much from MMA has evolved from what boxing has been and what it is now. I mean, without having those old Jack Johnson fights that were like 30 rounds.
Yeah, which were more like MMA fights back then too.
Small little gloves.
Yeah, elbowing, throwing down, no going to a neutral corner. I mean, they were in a freaking fight, bro, And Jack Johnson, speaking of him, who had bulldogs, there's pictures of him. There's actually Sheldon, Sugar Ray Leonard's boxing coach. He's going to bring it to me next time we meet up. But he has a picture of Jack Johnson with actual John P. Colby, who brought the dogs here.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that existed, so I was like really pumped, man, because I've seen the ones of Jack Johnson with his Colby dogs, but I've never seen them with John P. Colby. So I'm looking, I didn't even know that existed until Sheldon told me today.
Interesting.
And then Sheldon's the one that took Sugar Ray Leonard up to links and stuff. I think he's over at Mayweather's because my therapy is like right next door to it. So he's a cool dude, man. You might want to talk to him one of these days. He's a real old school guy and a cool dude, and he's knows the whole history of the Bulldogs like I do. He knew my dogs right away, so that was kind of cool. You don't run into too many of those guys in Vegas anymore. And he knows a lot of history about Jack Johnson and Jack Dempsey because he's a bit older than I am, so it's really cool to talk. I love talking to guys like that, man, because you always hear stuff that is not public knowledge, you know what I mean? So it was interesting, but yeah, I'd like to see boxing come back, man. I really would, but MMA, I think you're right, is a reflection of the boxing glory days. MMA uses a lot of boxing skills and boxing knowledge and boxing training. And Howard Davis used to be the boxing trainer down at ATT, American Top Team, and those guys are one of the best camps in the world. He died not too long ago, but they profited a lot from him, and they were smart to do that. So they were basically mostly a jiu-jitsu type of camp, and they brought Howard Davis in, and they started. They've been at the top of the game for years now, and I think Davis helped a lot with that. Which he was the Olympic gold medalist, and I think he was a champion as a pro before he retired. When I was 8 years old, Muhammad Ali got me into boxing,